That's pretty cool. Well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Freedom to Fight. I am your host, Anura Mathis, and I'm very excited to share this episode. I have the unique honor and privilege of interviewing someone so influential to me. I decided after meeting him that I would start this podcast, so very influential to me. And I'll be honest, I took some time in editing this episode because some emotions came up for me that I needed to process. But that's what this episode is about, and this project, this podcast is about, is our connection to our mental health and that connection to martial arts and vice versa, and to others, and everything in between. So naturally, that was my response. And this is just such an important conversation, I believe, to share. Also, I want to share that I am just an average person. I am learning how to be a podcaster and how to do this. So I'm just kind of learning as I go. If you are enjoying these episodes or have any feedback, send me an email or DM me on Instagram. It's freedom2connect@protonmail.com or freedom_2_fight is my Instagram profile name. Come find me and reach out to me. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my interviewee, Professor Robert Wunderlich. He is a very influential person. Honestly, he's an icon in several communities I'm not even aware of. So he is a 3rd degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He is the owner and founder of the Academy of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in Nevada, Colorado. And he's also the lead instructor of the Shuken Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Association that I'm a part of. I'm a part of that through my gym, through Limitless Martial Arts, and through his gym. And there's 3 others throughout Colorado and Wyoming that are a part of this association. So he's a very important person. And I'm very honored to have shared this time with him. So I will stop talking and share the episode. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Okay,
no reason to be nervous, by the way.
You're intimidating.
Why?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know exactly why, but it's something.
Okay, just take a breath. You're obviously in a safe space.
Yes.
We're all good. I have I just go into these kind of natural. I don't have any preconceived ideas of questions, nothing, so everything's gonna know.
Pause. I know exactly why I'm intimidated by him. I just mentioned all of his titles, but I was just super nervous. Okay, unpause.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Your host, Anura Mathis. I'm an amazing person, Professor Robert. I want you to introduce yourself because I don't want to miss anything.
Oh, it's okay. My name is Robert Wunderlich. I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I'm the owner and operator of the Academy of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Nevada. I'm also the head instructor for the Shokunin Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Association, to where there's 5 schools under that association, 3 here in the Denver area and then 2 in Wyoming. I also have a background in anthropology. I got a master's degree from the University of Wyoming and worked as a professional archaeologist for about 20 years. And I'm also a men's coach. So in what I refer to as the work kind of field, the inner work, yeah.
Wow, lots of titles.
Too many, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of dive into your history. You gave me all of your titles,
right.
But I guess more specifically, what got you into this realm of fitness? What got you into jiu-jitsu?
So I didn't have any idea how to defend myself. And I knew from a young age that I had a problem with anger, problem with aggression, I should say. I'm learning a lot about anger and aggression lately. So that anger is an emotion that is okay to have. We try to deny and stamp down anger, but I don't want to get too far down the weeds and stick to the question. But that I knew that I had some frustrations and aggression and didn't know how to deal with some of those things. So it actually frightened me. I'm 6'3", I was 215 pounds in high school, and I didn't want to possibly see red per se, get into an altercation, see red, and wake up to me having accidentally or unintentionally killed someone. So, and just the fear and the anxiety that goes behind not knowing how to do something. Especially when it comes to defending ourselves in a possible scenario. So I also went to undergrad at the University of Northern Colorado, and after getting my degree there, I had gained a lot of weight. I was walking around almost 280 pounds and wanted to get back into something competitive. I played football for 8 years growing up. Jiu-Jitsu I had gotten an exposure to while at the University of Northern Colorado. I don't really count it in my time spent doing Jiu-Jitsu just because I worked with another white belt and we just got together for about 8 or 9 months. And then in 2004 I moved back down to Denver and just sought some answers and sought a way for me to be able to compete, a way for me to get healthy, and started Jiu-Jitsu at Colorado Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, as it was called then, and under Professor Dave Ruiz, and haven't really stopped since. So
it's pretty incredible. I applied to the University of Northern Colorado.
Oh, nice.
I didn't pursue that, but I kind of mentioned what's going on about that. So, but I'm glad that didn't work out because I had space to find this.
Absolutely, and that's the way I think a lot of people, sometimes when doors close, there's just, it's that initial shock to the system or that initial that just makes you not feel good that something didn't happen your way. But the opportunities that lie just on the other side of the open door that just opened for you, a lot of times are better for you and make you who you are in the long run.
Definitely.
So just imagine how one of those small shifts could have changed, could change your whole life. So, yeah.
I feel like that's happened with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, with MMA in general, the few that I'm studying. Mm-hmm. I feel like I will never be the same.
Me either. Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things that's profound. For me, martial arts in general is something that's profound in many ways. I've also done some Muay Thai kickboxing in the past, and I think it exposes you to discomfort.
Yes.
And it pushes envelopes in a different way. And especially in the beginning, there's so much growth, both physically and mentally. that it truly changes people. I think at this stage, and just knowing at this stage of my life personally, that I see and understand how many black belts have unfortunately committed suicide, that jiu-jitsu can also have jiu-jitsu and martial arts can also have an element to where it's something that we can use to bypass, something that we can use for avoidance, and I think that if people are out there struggling, if they are out there having a hard time mentally, and their only reprieve is coming in and getting, not thinking about it, quote unquote, and then immediately stepping back out the door, and they're just right back into the thick of things. And it also, I think, can create a opportunity for people to get a little, oh, but I'm in this position and I can't look weak, so I can't reach out for help. So things along those lines. I think it's the integration of those two. I think it's really, really powerful. Getting out and having, I've hired multiple therapists in the last couple of years. I've hired multiple coaches in the last couple of years. I've really taken some deep dives into me to better understand my programming and understand why I am the way I am. And I highly recommend anybody do that.
Certainly. I should share this with my audience. I spend quite a bit of time in therapy. I have a talk therapist. I've gone through EMDR therapy, which is the type of therapist I am, trauma therapist. Are you familiar with that term, EMDR?
I'm not, actually.
It's eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Nice.
So
I've heard about it now that it's described.
Okay.
Yes, that's awesome.
Reprocessing traumatic memories, making space to create another story. And really that's what BJJ has done for me, is allowing me to create space for another story.
Yeah, it's one of the major proponents of jiu-jitsu. It's learning how to create space and just understanding the different elements of training, being able to, like what we refer to as a frame. Frame, just like the room that we're in, there's beings that are above us that they may not be able to see, and that's a frame, and that frame is holding that ceiling. That frame is allowing us to do jiu-jitsu under it. Just like a frame, when you build a frame in jiu-jitsu, it allows you to move yourself into me. So that structure also applies to the work in many ways, that us being able to better understand and build a frame for us and hold space for ourselves to actually be able to process and work through some things is it's beautiful, actually. It's an amazing thing. So
yeah, I figured I'd do way more emotional. I'm keeping it together pretty well, but it means so much to me because there's this profound element. It is very profound, but just something that I connected with that is not really easy to explain.
And I think it's because it's not easy. Because it's not easy, every single day you go to class, you walk out from class and you're sweaty and you're a little disheveled, and regardless of whether you've gotten tapped a lot in class or whether, you've gotten punched a lot in class if you're doing striking, whatever it may be, you still walk out with some sense that you grew. You still walk out with some sense that there's accomplishment there. Especially early on in the journey. You just feel good because you showed up.
Right.
And we lose that though when we start to become more comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And we have a tendency to forget about the 1% better every day, that we just glaze over that 1% and just like, I'm not getting any better.
Sure.
Reminds me of a story that I like to tell, and it's something that I've definitely described before, but so as a blue belt, I went to my professor because I had definitely forgotten what it was like to just get those little 1%. And I went to him and told him, I was like, Dave, I've hit a plateau, my game sucks, it's not getting any better, nothing works anymore. Everything that I used to be able to get on people, I'm not getting anymore. And I just don't feel good about my game. He, was very accommodating, very kind, and definitely was, called with me in some ways. It was just like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. This will pass. Your game's definitely gonna get better. Just stick with it. And I was like, oh, and he definitely fed my ego in that moment. And sure enough, 2-3 weeks later, the game, went from a plateau to now having that great growth curve that we all like to feel and witness and see. And then it happened again as a purple belt. Yeah, a couple years later, and I went to him and I was like, Dave, it's happening again. My game sucks. I hit a plateau. And literally before I could really say anything else, he looked me dead in the eye and kind of interrupted me a little bit. It was just like, well, you're right. And I was like, what? I went to expecting to have the same kind of, basically coddling, just to be like brought forward and held and, elevated. And I was offended in that first, split second until he immediately followed with these words. You're right, because you've already convinced yourself of such. And I was like, yeah. So we just got to be cautious with perception. Got to be cautious with how we choose to look at things, because they have a major impact on our psyche and the way that we view the world. So
definitely. Goodness, my relationship with jiu-jitsu, with martial arts in general, speaks to what you were mentioning before, that you have to be careful with becoming comfortable with being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and not reaching out for help when you need to. That's kept me from some classes. I'm not entirely open to my group just yet. There's so much trauma in my life. Although I shared this publicly, it's not something I talk about with my group. So having that balance, that healthy relationship, really matters.
Absolutely. And understanding that also it doesn't have to necessarily, especially with things that have happened to us, especially in those moments, we don't necessarily have to take those big leaps also, that they can come through time. And that's a part of the process. It's like, I know it's so cliche to say, but finding balance, finding that spot for yourself and knowing, because we all know, we know deep inside when we're pushing ourselves or not, or if we're settling.
Sure.
Right? Like it's a distinct feeling and you know it. And if you're not pushing yourself to maybe step into that next stage or step into that next class or become,
Sure.
Then it's like, okay, but I can still take just a small step. And that's the whole thing, is like, so many people want to run. So many people just don't want to begin. It's somewhere in between. And sometimes you are running and sometimes you aren't moving, but that's okay too, right? I'm not a believer in like taking steps backwards. I think sometimes we pause. I think sometimes we take some lateral steps to where we might be not be going forward, but reality, it's just, we don't go back. You can't go back.
You can't go back, yeah.
So just understanding that, and sometimes it's totally valid and okay. Just pause and observe and see the lay of the land. Like, where am I going next? To just keep on blazing forward, I just trapped myself on a cliff. Now I'm gonna have to back. Like, now I don't know which way to go. Does that make sense? So,
next question.
Of course.
So what does BJJ symbolize in your life now? You've kind of mentioned this to be in other occasions, but go ahead.
So much. It's for me personally, it's the daily challenge. The daily challenge in teaching, the daily challenge in training myself, the ability to see the smallest of growth, to really dial into the minutia, to get to depth, to understand things at depth instead of breadth, right? So, yeah, and then for me, as far as an instructor goes, it's one of the most rewarding things. Not because I teach them, not because I teach people, but because I get to witness people begin to see the value, and I get to see the shift in confidence, and I get to witness people grow for themselves. Because jiu-jitsu's not mine. I have my jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu's not mine. And people that I teach, I don't expect that they do my jiu-jitsu. They do their jiu-jitsu. And just like how we're all unique psychologically, we're all unique physically, we're all unique in our own ways. Jiu-jitsu is the same. What you may enjoy doing in jiu-jitsu and the way that your game is and how you perform your game is never going to be the same as mine, right? And that's because we're individuals. That has nothing to do with rank. That has nothing to do with anything else. It's just that your mind works in a certain way, and that's how jiu-jitsu is actually, it's reflected through people's games. People's personalities are reflected through people's game, like their game in jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense.
Well, that's that. I think I should ask you some questions about training.
Yeah, of course.
Like your approach to training, and then I'll shift back to mental health because
no problem.
Yeah, I had got questions there. So, what's your well, you're an instructor, but I guess as an individual, like, how did you approach jiu-jitsu? Did you, did you go and journal? Did you, what did you do to kind of solidify this?
Solidify the information?
Yes.
So I've gone through different phases, and just like different phases in life, I've gone through different phases in jiu-jitsu. In the beginning, I trained as much as humanly possible.
Okay.
Literally, I trained up to 13 times a week.
Okay.
When I was coming up, all the way through to about very early into my brown belt. I trained as much as humanly possible. I also wrote notes, for sure. I was inducted into Dave's instructor program early, so I was inducted into his instructor's program as a two-stripe blue belt. And I started teaching in Wyoming as a two-stripe blue belt because no one was teaching jiu-jitsu in Wyoming pretty much at that time. There was a few people teaching a few things that were similar, or just, but no one had really started teaching jiu-jitsu in Wyoming. So in 2006, I went to graduate school and just was like, I don't want to start doing jiu-jitsu, so I need to create other people for me to train with. And I've always enjoyed teaching, so I can't say that it wasn't because I also didn't, want to teach and share the information. But, so I definitely think that there's a method that people can use to retain more information. And that's really using the method that our brain uses to retain information well. So we all learn in different ways, visually, audibly, kinesthetically, meaning how to physically do it and feeling your way through it. So sometimes identifying those things for yourself is really important. Like, do I get confused? So I'm a visual kinesthetic learner in jiu-jitsu. So I want to make sure to say this, that I'm going to describe this specifically for martial arts, and this does not necessarily mean that I'm not an audible learner in a classroom type of, environment, or that people are going to be restricted to these three, because there's actually more than this. But for a physical thing like martial arts, it's pretty much reduced to those three: kinesthetic, visual, and audible. Okay. So, So being able to see something done and then being able to do it, and this also doesn't mean that words aren't important. There are words that are important, but if someone talks too much, then I get lost.
Sure. Okay.
Does that make sense? So being able to identify how you learn, and is it the words, or is it visually doing it, or is it you seeing and hearing and then being able to do it, and then when you're doing it, and then listen to little cues when you ask questions. Like, hey coach, or hey professor, I just don't feel how this is supposed to work. You're probably a kinesthetic learner, right? Or hey professor, I don't see how this is supposed to work. You're probably a visual learner, right? So there's these little cues, and I use these cues when I teach. When I teach individuals, I listen for the words that they use when they ask the questions, so that way I can better relate to them. But that's a side note. So something that we can do is, one, take notes. Taking notes directly after class is great, but one of my really good friends, Ruben, and he's actually co-owner here and also a first degree black belt in Jiu Jitsu, but he started taking privates with me years ago. And what he would do is, because he had a long drive back home, is that he would voice note into his phone what we went over that day. And then when he got home, he would listen back to it while he typed it into his computer.
Interesting. Okay.
So then you're using all of the modes, right? So you're speaking it out, you're listening to it back, and then you're putting it back through physically by typing it or writing it.
It's a great idea.
Right? And that's something that can really help you retain information in that kind of mode, because it's important to understand that the level of detail that you need to be at, right, is like really think about how it felt. Like, remember what it felt like to shift that way. Remember what it felt like for your hip to move across the mat. Remember what it felt like for your foot to plant. All of those little details, like, just really embody it. And the great thing is, neurologically, your brain doesn't know it differently. There's been numerous studies that have been done that when learning in that way, your body doesn't know the difference between physically doing it, as long as it has a reference, and mentally doing it.
It's very true. This is something I will eventually discuss and publish things on my Instagram and things like that.
Oh, nice.
But neuroscience is my my intention in moving here. That was my goal, is to get a PhD in neuroscience.
Amazing. Yeah, so you definitely know. You know, I like to use a study that was done, I don't remember what university, but just what they did was took like 30 participants in each group, and they had them come to a basketball, and they made sure that they had never learned to shoot a basketball ever before, right? So that was the only, and they set up a study, and they put like 30 people, and they shot baskets, and they recorded how many baskets they made, and they split them into 3 groups, Group A, Group B, and Group C. So Group A, they, throughout the week, then brought them back to the basketball court and taught them how to shoot baskets. Group B, they took to a classroom, and they gave them visuals, and they had them sit and really process and think about the detail and the dimples on the ball and what it felt like, weight and all of that. And then they visually and audibly and kinesthetically had them close their eyes and shoot baskets. More visualization type stuff. And then Group C was the control, and a week later they brought them back to the basketball court, and they had each of them shoot baskets again. And I always ask the students this question, because this is an example that I use for the Powling at mine. And they are like, oh, Group A definitely, like statistically was, they had a better result just because they were physically doing it. There's no statistical difference between Group A and Group B.
Fun, yeah. Interesting.
It's amazing to me, so.
Just gives yourself what you need, whatever that is.
And it's, to me, there are 2 secrets to Jiu-Jitsu. Secrets, and really it's things that we all know. It's not a secret. It's perseverance and repetition. Perseverance gets you in the door. If you go, you're naturally going to get reps. period. If you show up, you will get repetitions. If you get repetitions, you will get better at something.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and then it's just the perseverance plus repetition over time equals better.
Definitely, yeah.
But I would say that applies to anything and everything in life.
Perseverance. I've always said reinforcement and repetition. The elements of memory. But perseverance, it's an interesting word to replace that with. Because it's not just encompassing the activity, it's really you're talking about yourself.
Yeah, and
your actions.
Yourself is going to be the thing that actually dictates whether you do the rep or not.
Yeah.
You know, like how many times do we convince ourselves that the couch is just looking really comfortable, and that we know that there's a couple, cold drinks in the fridge, and we hear Netflix calling our name to just binge watch something, and we convince ourselves that that's more important than going to an academy or going to the gym or going right on that other side. Does that make sense?
It does.
And then how much do we guilt and shame ourselves when we don't do it? Which then, no one really likes feeling guilt. No one really likes feeling shame. And we're really good at doing both of those things to ourselves.
Yes.
So then how many times do we not go again? Because of how much guilt and shame we're actually carrying from missing one.
Right.
And then just another day, and then another day, and then that compounds and compounds and compounds, and then people don't come back. Just think about New Year's resolutions.
This is the cycle I get into, because it's the guilt and shame, more so shame than guilt.
For sure.
I'm not sure what your definition of the two is, but guilt for me is I did something bad, and shame is I am bad.
Yes, I agree.
It's hard to create that separation because I want to show up. I am a part of a team. It's not just me showing up for myself, but getting stuck in, I missed a class, or this didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I've got to go later. I get stuck in that's probably my biggest obstacle.
Absolutely, and I do personally believe it's more shame than it is guilt also, but just more relatability to others that may not be, understand the difference between those two. I bring those kind of two together. Are you familiar? I'm sure you're familiar with Brene Brown's work.
Yes.
And
that's her definition.
Yes,
shame and guilt.
that's what I thought. But yeah, her Atlas of the Heart, and really being able to define and really get into what these emotions are. And the words, one of the most profound things that she says in the book, and then she also has that special on HBO Max. The words that we choose define our reality.
Right. Yeah.
So that alone is just something that, I don't use the word overwhelm as much. I'm highly stressed right now. I'm really stressed right now, but because stressed, I can still continue to operate. When I say the word overwhelm, then I'm probably going to be shut down in 20 minutes because I've already convinced myself that I'm in overwhelm. So then I'm not going to be able to continue to move.
This is very important. It's not that it's lost on me. It's something I'm still working through, but it's finding what those triggers are. What words do that to you?
Absolutely. And I think it's also really important to say on the other end and to follow that thought through with understanding how we move from missing that day, and when the shame does come, to then understand that we just need to have a little self-reflection, that we need to just get to that point where we build a habit of how was my day today before I go to bed, and really check in and say, how was my day today? Well, I didn't make it to jiu-jitsu. And that's okay, because I now have the opportunity to bring in two other really important words in my world, which are grace and compassion. And then give myself the fact that I'm a human being, and I make errors and I make mistakes, and I have these things happen, and I'm tired, or I have some other things come up in my life, or I'm just not emotionally able to step into a room full of people, or all kinds of things. And instead of the shame just being like, well, you didn't make it jiu-jitsu, you're a bad person, right? But then through self-reflection and grace and compassion, then we can actually get to some more of the roots, some more of the trunks of why am I shaming myself, right?
It's a tool. It's an effective tool in some regard. I'm not encouraging it by any means, but shame is how I'm conditioned to use shame to. I'm an athlete in school. I'm a distance runner, and my older siblings were too. So trying to be as good as my older siblings, and not making practice or not making what have you, whatever the goal is. That was always my mode.
And I completely understand. And like, there are aspects where we have to have shame. It's not that like we can kill it. You hear that said a lot in the kind of the work realm, like in mental health realm, that like sometimes you have to kill a part of yourself and be able to move on. But shame is not one of those things.
Yeah.
And I just feel that in society today, we so often look at things through black and white lenses, and we're so polarized that we've just lost this ability to really see the in-between and understand that it's a scale. It's not just this side of this, this end or this end, on or off. It's more of, sometimes it's 99% over here, sometimes it's 99% over there, but most of the time it's somewhere in between.
Spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, just shifting back to mental health, I think that has been the biggest experience for me, is accepting myself, accepting my shadow self.
That's not easy.
It's not easy, but this is a catalyst for that. I'm trying to think of who I was last year. I'm not the same person, but it helped me in such a way to really develop the confidence that I don't think I could have done otherwise. I don't think there's another. I'm interested in so many different things, in dance and just the arts in general, like expressing myself in other ways. I didn't have that confidence before I came here.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's true for so many people, because we're not just heading to a better idea of ourselves currently, connecting to something that we've always been. We've just disconnected in the last 250 years, and even in the last 75 to 100 years.
Yeah.
We used to challenge ourselves in totally different ways as human beings. We used to rub up against all kinds of edges because we had to survive. Literally.
Yeah.
And now we have so much comfort that this brings us back to some of those edges. Does that make sense?
It does.
Right? Like, I think about women on the plains during, homesteading. Like, they had 9, 10, 11 children.
Sure, yeah.
On their own, with no to little help. To men going out in small groups and going into lands that they didn't know, to, that's a tumultuous, I chose a kind of tumultuous time to kind of refer to, but, just the rites of passage, in almost every culture on the planet. I'm more familiar with a lot of Native American practices just because of my background in North American archaeology, but just understanding how we've lost so much of that. Young men, 12, 13, 14 years old, were taken from their mothers and taken out in the wilderness and explained what it was to be a man and shown what it was to be a man and went through arduous stuff to go through to be a man. Women, when they got their first menstruation, were taken and folded into the group of now being a woman and having ritual and having tradition and having ceremony around that. And then really that helped shift so much psychology, you know, for people of the past. They just knew who they were more fundamentally than we do. You know, I think as parents, we don't get, you know, everyone always has a thing, well, it doesn't come with an instruction manual, but we culturally don't do that either. We culturally don't sit expecting parents, or we don't, you know, talk about how to parent before a baby really comes out, and then the next thing you know, you're like, I have no idea how to do this. Does that make sense? And there's so much of that across the board, you know, like, I think, and I can speak because I've just done a lot of men's work in the last couple of years, is we have a bunch of man babies running around, you know, because we still have so many men that are stuck in boy psychology and haven't shifted into man psychology yet, you know, that we don't even understand a lot of that stuff. We have no one teaching us those things. A very few people teaching those things, I should say. The resources are out there, which I think is great to see access to, you know, all of those things. And I'm just seeing it more and more. I just saw like a news blurb today for a local channel talking about men's health. And this gentleman was on talking about vulnerability and, you know, things along those lines. And I was just like, this is awesome. You know, the MMA fighter who just recently, after post-fight, I can't remember his name, but he really spoke to like, men, if you guys are hurting,
Oh, yes,
like,
yes.
please, if you feel like you need to kill it, like if you want suicidal, please reach out to somebody. It's okay to reach out to somebody. Just giving people permission to do those things is so important. You know, that we don't need to bottle up our emotions, that we don't need to be stoic all the time, that we don't need to, you know, just be, man, get weird, get vulnerable, you know, and truly, like, there's a lot of resources out there. There's all kinds of men's groups. You know, I'm personally part of my friend Trey Rebel's men's group, The Nation. He wrote the book Man Uncivilized, and then there's Connor Beaton's The Alliance, then there's, you know, Sacred Sons, there's all kinds, there's plenty out there now. And I think it's wonderful that we're starting to see more resources for that. And I'm not saying, obviously, this is just what I'm more familiar with. And I also know that there's more and more women's groups that are coming up that are online, like Leila Dilla's Heart Space, which is great. They just come together and there's resources online and there's community and things along those lines. And I think that's the word that we're really missing a lot of times. We're so isolated. As connected as we are, we're so isolated as humans. It's really unhealthy. And getting back into some form of community, getting back to some kind of cohesive understanding that we're not alone in our struggles, that we're not alone in the things that we're processing and working through, is just a really important kind of message to get out there.
I think so too. That's my intention, is to provide free resources or make it accessible for everyone. And mental health is a part of our health. It's part of our human experience, and we need to have resources so that we can stay connected to each other.
Absolutely, and that's honestly one of the, you know, foundational pieces of how I run this community here at, you know, the Academy, is that I am accessible and that people can talk to me and that I speak to a little bit of mental health, you know, occasionally on the mat, or we just have a small discussion because I've heard something similar between groups, or, you know, just that alone, you know. I close out the fundamentals classes with just a breathing exercise, just to build some presence. I mean, how many people just aren't present? How many people don't know how to do meditation, you know, don't have a meditation practice, and just being for 2 minutes is something that can be so beneficial for your day, just your psyche in general.
Definitely. And I notice when I'm not in alignment and just kind of rushing through life and just kind of being in it all. It is overwhelming.
It's really easy to get swept up. It's so easy to get swept off your feet and just right back into the old line, right? And really, it takes a bunch of compassion and grace to get us back on track. And to just, oh, hey, at least now you're recognizing that you're on a pattern. I think that's such a massive step that people don't give them credit for.
Certainly, yeah.
And that it takes repetitions in that. So many people just have this expectation, and I'm one of them. I had the expectation that, like, well, I identified it, so therefore I should be better at it.
Just kidding.
You know, but we convince ourselves of that. Well, I know that I've got an anger issue. I know I've got an aggression issue, so therefore I should be better at it. And then but I'm not fixing any of the stuff that actually brings that out of me. And I do that. And it just takes repetition and understanding. Like, that, man, I got to bring some admittance in my life. I got to admit over and over again that I have this issue. And through that process, then I can move into more awareness. But I need a lot more repetitions and awareness in order to bring that to a better understanding and acceptance. And then accepting the fact that, like, it's always going to bounce back and forth between awareness and acceptance. Because, you know, it's using a jiu-jitsu analogy, it's like me saying that I'm never going to get arm locked again. I'm going to get arm locked. It's going to happen, right? In life, something's going to activate me. Something's going to bring something out of me, no matter how much work I've done. There's going to be something that comes out of left field that just, like, uh-oh. All right, well, now I'm in this for the next 45 minutes instead of this controlling me for the next 3 months. And that's the massive difference.
I think so too. I think it's realizing that the external, that's playing its role. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So even getting upset at it is using your energy that's maybe not in the best way. It's always going to be there. I keep looking at your tattoo.
That's okay. That's okay. Absolutely, and I think yeah, I think that's a very well said point. That the external will always be there, and it is always going to, like, challenge us. But in reality, like, and that's something that I've just come to through jiu-jitsu and doing the work, and I guess I'm just kind of having this mentality of my life, but, like, I don't want it easy. I don't want comfort all the time. I mean, you know, like, because nothing that I've been that I understood in a quick manner, or that I got good at in a quick manner, or that I was comfortable with right away, that I actually get things in. It's like playing a video game and you beat it in the first hour.
Right, it's not fun.
To never play that video game again.
No.
But the video game that takes you months, and it takes you like 325 times on that, like, last level to beat, do you go back to that game? Because
definitely,
it's a saga. It reminds you of something. It pulls other emotions out of you. You remember where you were when it happened. Like, there's so many other things that are tied to it. You know?
Cool. I'm gonna let you ask me a question so we can wrap with this. If you'd like to ask me a question.
I would love to. So, actually, a couple.
Okay, sure. I'm open.
What's the most profound thing that you've learned about yourself and or just your understanding of jiu-jitsu?
Oh, no. Let's go there. Okay. I have a kind of I have a very unique background. Let's say this. I was kind of raised in a Buddhist temple.
Okay.
So that's my background. It's my name is Tibetan. Just kind of my family culture and my spirituality was developed before I even had memories. So I was meditating at a very early age. So the aspect of violence and allowing yourself to show anger is something I struggle with quite a bit. So realizing that everything that I thought was just loving and the right way to do things also encompasses this. That's the biggest thing I learned, that this is love too.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. And then I like that.
I knew it was going to happen at some point. Every time I see you, I cry. Whether it's afterwards or during, I cry every time. So it's just so you know.
Hopefully they're good cries.
No, good cries. Good cries, yes. Good cries.
So in the mental health realm, and having the background as far as Buddhism goes, why do you think anger is so vilified in our society?
Well, that might be hard to answer. There's just a misunderstanding. It's not understanding ourselves. Anger has a purpose, just like everything in life. I mean, the worst things in life have a purpose and have existed for, racism has existed longer than I have. So when I experience it, it's less about me than something that's always kind of been here. So
it's the other. The other has always been here. Yeah.
That's accepting the shadow part, is accepting that this is just, human beings can do really terrible things, but they can do really amazing things. It really isn't, you don't have to put the emotion behind it. You don't have to make that association that it's good or bad.
And I've just been doing work with anger recently, and that's why I asked that question. I'm reading a book by a gentleman named Robert Masters, called To Be a Man, and he really refers to anger as he doesn't even refer to it healthy anger. He just calls it anger and says that in anger, we can actually have access to our heart. We can actually have access to compassion. We can actually have access to love. We can actually have access to empathy. But it's not a negative thing. It's when we shift anger to aggression. Aggression is suppression. It's dominance. It is trying to make someone feel what you feel, right? Whereas anger, you can be flamboyant and you can be loud, but you can just say, I can understand how you did this, but this still makes me really angry.
Yes. Anger is, it definitely helps you connect with compassion. And I don't know, I think it's that challenge. It's life's challenge. It pushes you until you say, okay, enough. I'm gonna do something about it.
My boundaries been crossed with you too many times. I need to have actual conversation, and I need to hold my ground. I need to actually draw the line in the sand.
Those are profound moments. That's what Jiu Jitsu did to me. Mm-hmm. It made me do it.
That's awesome. Amazing. I think it's so amazing that you and I can have this conversation where we're talking a lot about Jiu Jitsu, but we can't leave out the mental health side of it. Because that's what it does. Mm-hmm. That's why so many people recommend it. That's why so many people are beginning to do it. It's because it draws things out of you that you didn't know existed before. And it does make you face the shadow. And, and going down into that basement is not fun. It's scary down there. I remember going in my grandma's basement, and seeing the creepy dolls in the corner and running back upstairs because I thought something was going to reach under the stairs and grab me. So it can be an intimidating. So if you had one piece of advice to say to someone just starting jiu-jitsu, what would it be?
One piece of advice.
Or an experience of like what it was for you to first step into an academy and how that process was. I think it's important for us to share those moments so that people understand that like you're still gonna be nervous, but like someone, most of the time when they hear it from me, they're like, but you've been doing jiu-jitsu 18 years. Like,
Yes. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. Well, I definitely remember my first experience. I Google searched martial or self-defense and just called the first one that was nearby. And I had this preconceived notion that this Ollie Curoli was going to just be a joke, honestly. Like, because in Texas, when I was looking for self-defense classes, they didn't take it seriously. It wasn't like their life. It wasn't this is, we only trained once every couple of months. It wasn't an integration to your life. So I came in with it like this, okay, I'll just go and do this class. But I talked to him on the phone, and then I met him in person. I just, shame, it's just like, don't think that, because give this person a chance. And it just changed me. I took a women's class. That was how I got introduced, and it was to striking and to Muay Thai. And then I ended up taking the class with all of the members, and I had a panic attack my first time coming in because I just had that notion that this isn't real, or not to believe in these people or whatever it was. I didn't really buy into it until they showed me, which was pretty instant. I mean, going into that environment, that's real. This is real. This is really what it is.
Well, Limitless Martial Arts is amazing. Ali's amazing.
Yes.
And her and his wife is amazing. And
Yes.
It's an amazing community. It's part of the association. And yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I also had a panic attack before I went in for my first class. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know if they were just going to be a bunch of ruffians and beat me up on the mat and say, and that was going to be the experience from then on. And then walking in, and I didn't meet my professor the first time I went, but then when I went back and meeting Dave and how welcoming he was and how open he was and how, everything along those lines. And I've heard so many different stories. Like, I know people that it took 2 months of them going to the parking lot and saying, I'm going to go, and then be like, I can't go.
Yeah.
And then driving away, And then finally, after 2 months, they said, okay, I'm doing it. And then getting into the door and having it profoundly change their life.
I think once you get over the hump of doing it, that's one. And then just kind of getting over the hump of being seen. And I said this, I think, in my first episode, that I just thought I'd go in and sit in the back and nobody would notice me. Yeah, just kidding. I'm a Black woman. Of course people are gonna notice me because there's not a ton of women in the classes. And of course, you're posing, they're gonna notice me. And I didn't think of myself, getting promoted. I just didn't include myself until I was included. I was like, oh, I'm a part of this.
And the self-worth to understand that the community sees worth in everyone that comes in. And every new person for an academy owner isn't because it's the dollar bill. It's because it's another opportunity for them to have another person in there that's going to make others better. Because that's what we truly do when we do martial arts. That's one of the unique things that we do, is we challenge each other as human beings. That it's another human being, and I would say in jiu-jitsu it's the ground, right? The other thing you fight is definitely the mat, just as much as maybe fighting a other person, right? And I say fighting loosely. But it's that understanding, like how many other places can we gain trust in another human being like we do in a safe martial arts school? To understand that, like in jiu-jitsu, if you tap and they don't let go, they can physically harm you and it be a detriment in your life. Or it can be even more than that. It can end your life, right? So it's a unique thing in that way. And for me, some of the greatest friendships, most of the greatest friendships I have are people that have done jiu-jitsu.
I spend most of my time with people that do jiu-jitsu and martial arts, and I feel like it is a safe place for me to experience something like that. That it's I feel like this is my family. Like anywhere I go, I feel a part of that. And losing so much of my family in the most recent years, that's been so important. So I found that in all of this and for you, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's community it's so important. It's so vital for us. In a day and age where I think it's moving and shifting a little bit. We're starting to get more multi-generational homes again. But where our expectation is that we should be out on our own, that we need to disconnect from our families, or we, like yourself, have the